Hello everybody, I'm Phantom2502 and welcome back to Satisfactory. This episode I am beating Satisfactory on Satisfactory's anniversary. All I have left is to stick the stuff into the space elevator and finish it. But first let's do a base tour. As for the anniversary itself, just to prove it is the anniversary, here's what they've added in. You can't shoot the piñata, unfortunately. I don't think there's target practice in here. But if you do this, you got a piñata. Yay. Alright, and I don't think these things explode. Here's the bathroom. And you got some cake and some pizza, and you can interact with the microwave. Ding sound. We're for finishing the game, at 212 hours. I've done pretty minimalist builds, but everything worked, and minimalist and progressive, so I did not tear down anything this entire build. Any production buildings stayed in their spot from the beginning, no ripping out things and putting things back. If you follow my tutorial series, you will recognize it is the exact same progression. Here's the recycle bin, my excess storage stuff, and a bit of manual stuff above that. This is my Hypertube, go to Hypertube network. Everything's really close to my hub, my equipment workshop. I have a power monitor just to monitor everything. And I guess a level 1 power monitor, which is just a post. That's all that post does, just let me check the power situation. Ma'am. Oh yeah, so just to show everything is unlocked, hard drives, they're all completed, everything's been researched, everything's been unlocked here, except for some specials. So I just don't have enough tickets for the Lizard Doggo, Satisfactory Pioneering Creature, and Golden Nut. So I guess those are the only things left, but otherwise everything's unlocked. The only parts I needed to use was super oscillators and the neuroquantum processor I bought with tickets just to do the final unlocks in Tier 9, because it was going to be too much of a pain to get them to be fast enough to unlock in a reasonable time, just by natural stuff. But as for some of the other builds, like I think ballistics are only at like 0.2 per minute, but to get 200, that's like 16 hours, and by the time I'm building other things like Fixonium and Alien Power Matrix and the final little exploration, that finishes itself, kind of thing. Here's my inventory. I see at first with the Mercer Spheres, I did a bunch of exploration items, and then build your main build items, and then like more advanced build items, and then just miscellaneous towards the end. Everything's into dimensional depots. I got my doggo farm still up here. There we go. I had 2 more, but they're kind of like some bug where they're below ground, like I can't recover them for some reason. But anyways, there's the doggos. I have an operations facility for power management, very, very complex power management, where everything's separated on their own lines. That will probably be its own video at some point. But yeah, very complicated power management. As see, everything's connected in. Just to give you an idea of it, the power monitor does circuit breaker priority. Basically, biomass and stuff that just auto power, and then coal, then compacted, then everything up to turbo fuel, rocket fuel on its own, ionized and Fixonium stuff. Then it's stuff that consumes power on this side. So this is just for max item build, and this would be for the max build and personal stuff like teleporters and radar towers and hypertubes and stuff. And then over here is this toggle on and off stuff for my warps on the right. I made it so that I could actually bleed my entire system of all, or if I wanted to, turn off different sectors, like all things that are producing certain things in one shot. So they're all in one network each, and everything's separated and configured in this power hub. The hypertube network powers there, and then I got my teleporters up here. Let's see, what else do we have? I guess I'll give you a tour. So this is where we started in the Nexus, and as you see, we still have our initial items. This is to make the tier 0, 1, and 2 items to smart splitters here. We have our initial copper items, wire and cable, and our initial concrete. And our storages, which are made this way, and I got a little sign for what each item is, so that when we're getting stuff early in the game, we can just grab from one side, and if it's not full yet, we can put stuff in the other side. Eventually we upgraded to smart splitters and smart split everything coming up for sushi belts into each bin. Basically the recycle bin down here, so I can put anything from adventuring, goes in, and then we'll split into uranium stuff, which will get processed elsewhere, and manual stuff, which gets processed, and the undefined, which will then follow this line slowly with the low belt, and then get merged into the main line. And then this box ends up merging my plastic material or oil materials line with my main line, my 2 sushi belts that I have for the entire thing. Those get merged and then basically put in the storage. This just, if there's any manual stuff or uranium stuff on the belt, it ends up going into the manual processing. Basically goes this way and goes through my entire system. Each of the system, as you see, I've added dimensional depots onto every single item. Haven't needed multiple for each yet, but with bigger builds, I guess I'll have to extend it for the items I need multiple each of. The manual items get stored here, dimensional depots. The tier 1, tier 2 items. The tier 3, tier 4 items over here. Tier 5 and tier 6. This is just, again, my power connection stuff from above. That's all separated into different types of power. Ore production, extraction, and consumption are all separated for each part. Yes, I can turn off all my radar towers in one move, or all my teleporters, or all ore in the entire game, all extractors just turn off, although that takes several switches, because each of them are separated by different power types. Anyway, I'd probably explain that in detail is probably another video. Anyway, so tier 5 and 6 items stored over here, my space elevator in the middle, tier 7 and 8 items over here, tier 9 items over here, and this is ancillary items, mostly ingots and ores. This section is my manual build, so anything that goes into recycle comes over here for manual processing. So we get some alien, so all the things that would be sharded, or the animal stuff gutted into animal protein, and then this is alien DNA capsules, and this turns into biomass, then solid biofuel, and then packaged liquid biofuel for that. Mycelia or gas filters. Mycelia goes into, mycelia goes into gas filters. There's also gas nobelisks in here. Added in the iodine infused filters. all this stuff will exit onto the main belts over here to be brought into the sink and have some of its own storage stuff near the base backed up into this section. Then power shards, since they can't be sunk, power shards get split and go into storage, which is the first storage over here, where it merges with the synthetic line, which is on its own separate line because they can't be sunk. And the manual ones get put in, but if the manual ones would, after putting like slugs and stuff, they would go and try to go into storage. If storage is full, then I have something over here splitting them off at the undefined to make sure that they get processed and don't back up my sink. Power shards over here get further processed into ionized fuel and packaged ionized fuel, and alien power matrices and dark matter crystals. So that's the manual build. The only thing I don't have with this build is Fixmas, which I would put up here on this floor up here, with its own storage probably over in this section, like one floor above. But I started this build in April, so I'll have to wait till December to do that build. Alright, so I guess let's use an elevator and go down stairs for now. Hey, why is this one not connected? I'll connect this later. Apparently I did not connect that part of my hypertube network. I kind of just finished adding hypertubes to most of my base at the moment. Electronics production. I added a bunch of elevators into the system. So there's one, the original one, and then I've got another one up there, and I think I've got a fourth one over there. Alright, so as we saw, if you followed my tutorial series, I have my original modular frame build here, and my original steel build at tiers 3 and 4 over here. Quartz build, as you can see, has been expanded, not just the main silica and quartz and quartz crystal, but a few extra things, using some alternate recipes. Because in order to get the laid out game items, even with a very minimalist approach, I had to add in some extra buildings for the throughput. As for minimalist approach, what I mean is I didn't build any more buildings than I really needed to beat the game. So that's why most things are basic recipes. Basically, for tier 5, tier 6, to finish that up, and tier 7, tier 8, all I did was added power shards to everything, up the belts for everything, and then that allowed extra stuff to do tier 5, tier 6, tier 7, tier 8, involved adding sloops to wherever I needed. As for 5, 6, I didn't need too much sloops for production. I think just steel pipes needed them real quick, especially since I wanted to get munitions up and running online as I was exploring. And quick wire needed to go up, and I think screws. Otherwise, I didn't need much for 5 and 6 to get things fast enough to complete. This is electronics. Over here is the quick wire, and adding in a bit of fused quick wire. So there I had to add some more to build. AI limiters, high-speed connectors, electromagnetic control rods, electric field generators. That's the assembly director system over there. Some of those things were added since the tutorial build. As for like base items that I had to add for the tutorial build, I had to add some steel pipe. Just needed more pipe to get the game done, which came with its own iron ingots here. And then the fused quick wire needed some caterium and copper ingots, which I added into extra buildings over here. Otherwise, other than the initial setup, I did not need to add really any extra buildings other than the initial buildings. Just getting all the sloops in the game and putting them in was enough. This floor, aluminum with a little bit of extra, so portable miner there. With the aluminum builds, this is copper powder, stuff for the copper ingot and copper powder. This is the truck station to get my bauxite. And then I've got a road there to go get bauxite all the way up there. And I extend my sulfur hypertube network to my other truck station and wherever the bauxite is. $1,400 meters away. So this is aluminum. So get all the aluminum processing. You have aluminum scrap, aluminum ingots, your aluminum products, including anti-fluid tanks. And this is everything needed for nuclear pasta and thermal propulsion rockets, as well as iodine-infused filters being done here. Once I hit rocket fuel, I needed to add in train station. Train station mostly just has 2 stops here for drop-off and pickup. And down to my nuclear build down there, drop-off, pickup, and then over to the nitrogen gas area. That's all done by train. Basically both sushi belts basically have programmable splitters for stuff that needs to be split off from each line to go into the train, and then when it comes back from the train, it gets merged into the sushi belt over here. This is built in a way that I will have another floor for train lines for the mega build, but don't need it for this one. And the top floor here is SAM. Our synthetic power shards get over here to be processed into ionized fuel, which go into power plants and into packaging to be sunk. But that's where the synthetic power shards, if they back up, that's going for processing. Over here we have diamonds and time crystals getting the coal from down there. And then the rest of the build starts with trigons over on this side, working its way that way, with the sushi belts coming from downstairs and going one way, and then doing a 180 and coming back and going downstairs. And here you have all the late game items. Your singularity cells, ballistic warp drives, 0.2 per minute. Yeah, expansion servers, 0.2 per minute. Basically everything we need. Alien power matrix, although is costing me more power than it's providing overall with the build. For completionist points, I tried to get that up to 5 points. Well, I wanted extra for storage. But anyways, here's my blueprint designers. An elevator, fixed site trigons, ore for the fixed site trigons, packaged water for completionist sakes. And the power matrices need to be at least 5, or else this goes up and down all the time, because there's no way to like slide this like other power things. So I think you got to put all 5 just to have it run consistently. Alright, and then my blueprint designers, and up there is where my teleporters are. We'll use the teleporters later, but don't need to do it right now. Okay, let's go to the nuclear setup. And we're going to use our hypertube network to get there instead of our warp. We could have used the warp. Alright. This is the build for the nuclear power plants. And so we have 2 train stations. One drops off all the items from the base that we put in. That goes into a line, does a loop around, and any excess stuff gets put on a train and brought back to base. We also have nitrogen gas coming in and sulfur coming in from over that way, and that comes in on its own lines and pipes and be put into the system, where the nitrogen gas also comes in here, but also splits off to go to the oil setup over there. Let's see. Each of the lines gets split off by product into bins and then put on individual item spines or buses or whatever to go into each of the line of products. Yeah, we have nuclear, where is this? Nuclear nobelisks being done here, and that's being sent to base, as well packaging some sulfuric acid in this section. But each of these are doing nuclear stuff. Initial recipes and extra and alternate recipes, but these are being done at 250% each for 4 out of 5 of these. That 5th one's not online, it's just there for spacing, because if I extend this, it'll go 6 power plants, not 4. I added this nuclear bin, so if you're ever manually doing nuclear and you have it on you, you can put it in a nuclear bin and it goes right into a sink or into bins, and I mean my nuclear storage section up in the sky up there, so I don't irradiate everything. But this is uranium power. As I said, I'm storing every item in the game, so this backs up uranium wastes. Just more completionist sake, I mean, it's not something you have to do. This plutonium processing. And there's my warp to get into this area, and right near hypertube entrance, another nuclear bin. Things that go into my recycle bin, the nuclear stuff will get veered off and brought into the nuclear storage / sink up there. Plutonium processing, plutonium power. I think these ones are only running at 2 of them running at 187% at the moment. And then the Fixonium build, which isn't running completely at the moment because things aren't backed up yet from storage. There's Fixonium processing and Fixonium power at the end. Yay. Alright. And then we have another nuclear bin. Alright, let's go look at the nitrogen setup, because that's a late game thing. Alright, so this is the nitrogen node. Everything's tapped. Put into fluid buffers before going into the sink. It's always, onto the train. It's always good to have things in fluid buffers or into storage containers, and then do doubles to go into sinks or into the train. So it's always good to do that. And then my sulfur I'm getting from a node over there. Sorry for the background noise. My kids just got home from school. Ah, crap. Didn't want that. Just try to finish this video and then I'll go see how their day was. Alright, we'll go look at nuclear processing. As the radiation goes up. So everything gets put into bins. Anything that can be sunk is split off into the bins. And then another nuclear bin if I'm up here, and then into a sink. Things that cannot be sunk have their own individual lines that get backed up and put into here. All the manual radioactive bins and recycle will come onto lines and merge and come through here and get split off with any undefined if they're items that cannot back up, they will go into this storage if they can, but if you do it after the storage is full, they have their own manual bins, which hopefully you're not dealing. I guess it becomes a problem if you manually have to get rid of a full double bin of any item, but that's probably never going to happen, hopefully. And anything that could go into the sink then gets merged in to the sink, and uranium itself goes here. Here I just have one-dimensional depot because of the Nuke Noblisk unlock. I guess for completion's sake I will put other ones in there, but I didn't feel like doing that because it would absolutely ruin my power grid for the moment. As for power, we're producing between 62 and 69,000 megawatts and consuming maximum 52, and a bunch of up and down because of the quantum encoders and stuff to have very random power outputs, but up to around 50 something. So we have enough for this point in the game. Alright, the uranium node is up there. Alright, let's go to our oil fields. Ah, crap. No, I didn't want to go here. I'll go to the next one. Alright, so here's my teleporter setup. I don't have teleporters on all the time because that would take 2 singularity cells per minute per warp. I have 2 warps, it'd be 4 singularity cells a minute. And that's just too expensive. So I have these power setups. These are the satellite ones, so those are powered directly, and then the ones at the base are powered through a switch. And so this switch is just here so that I can access the search at break priority. Now we're going to go to the oil fields, so I'm going to turn on my nuclear power plant and the oil fields plant so that warms up while this warms up, so I can just do the transfer easily. I don't have to go through and then turn on the other one, wait another 30 seconds, but it takes like 30 seconds to warm up. And then when we get to the other side and done our transit, we can turn them off, and that way it only uses, I guess, 2 for one and 2 for the other warp. So 4 singularity cells right now, but only would use singularity cells when I use the warps instead of every single minute. But downside is you have to wait 30 seconds, and let's take the other warp. As you saw, there were power things there, and let's turn them off to not waste anything. Alright, and that system's turned off. Here's the oil system with the truck station we had set up, and the SAM production over there. So this is doing all the oil products. We're able to do it on one pipe, less than 600 oil. We were able to finish the game with that. And this has plastic, rubber, all that, empty canisters, packaging fuel, petroleum coke power, fuel power, more packaging and unpackaging of fuel, turbo power, turbo packaging. This is the turbo fuel production, rocket fuel production, nitrogen gas and nitric acid packaging. Nitric acid's right now just for the packaging, but it would be extended for the other rocket fuel recipe. And then rocket fuel being done for rocket power and rocket fuel power, and this is being packaged. And the package here is being used for the ionized fuel, for the manual build and the synthetic shards. But yeah, that's it for this section. I guess we could maybe take the manual way back. Not sure which way is faster, really, with the warp, and so you gotta wait 30 seconds for warp, but then it's like almost instant. Ah, crap. Well, less mistakes at least. I didn't want to go to my uranium. Alright, at base. So yeah, that's, I think, it for the build. As I said, added some elevators. I think I've showed pretty much everything off. Except for, I guess, all the nodes, but my tutorial series has the nodes, quartz from over there, and then Caterium sulfur further down in the valley here. Otherwise, yes, my setup for the teleporters. So as we see, each of them have their own setup for each teleporter, and that's how I'm able to turn them on and off remotely. We have our hypertube nexus down here, so go to hypertube to anywhere. And I guess I'll quickly do the power facility, because I haven't showed that off. But as I said, all the powers split off from beginning game items all the way to the end. Not everything's done by the circuit big priority, only the ones that would really be needed to be done. If I wanted more fine control, I come in here and I can turn off things manually. But I'm not going to explain the system at the moment, but it's basically, they all kind of look like that. So oil power into each of the different oil products, nuclear power into each of the nuclear products, and then everything. So that's all power making, and then this side's all power using. So extraction for the main build, production for the main build, and consumption for the main build. We're split into logistics, late game stuff, and all the manual stuff, each on its own power grid, and teleporters over here, and including stuff to make all the singularity cells. Yes, very, very complex power system, but if anything fails, I'm able to either drain my system or bring it down to only power producing builds only, and then build it back up. Or I can turn off all the extractors in the game and bleed my entire system. I also have extraction separated from water and ore, so I can turn off all the ore and keep the water running. Or I can turn off water for my power stations and have them not work. Like, any sort of combination you can think of for any troubleshooting is done with the operations facility and the power switch palace. Alright. I think I've shown off everything. So let's finish the game. I guess that's everything. Alright. Let's see, we need 1,000 nuclear pods. You know what, maybe I'll just grab them out of storage. Alright, nuclear pasta is going to be over here somewhere. There we go. 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, 1,000. And then I think the rest of the stuff are tier 9 and 10 things. And there we go, biochemical. $300, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,000. No, 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 yes. Need what, 256 of this? Well, slightly short. Where is it? There, and I mean, what, 200 ballistic warp drives, right? Alright. As for exploration, I've done everything. All power shards on the map are collected. All hard drives are collected. All summer sloops and all Mercer spheres are all collected. The game is like 100% done, I guess, except for the few statues that I have left. But otherwise, and Fixmas. But otherwise, this build, and it's progressive build, didn't have to tear down anything from beginning to end. Very minimalistic. Don't need to be super huge. Is done the game in 212 hours, and that's also includes all the time to explore and get everything off the entire map. Alright, so let's load everything up and finish Satisfactory on finishing Satisfactory 1.1 on Satisfactory's 1-year anniversary. I wonder if there's anything special. Probably not.
Unsurprisingly, here's another presentation, but don't worry, I have improved it. This last delivery will be the most important action you have ever taken. Perhaps you want to take a moment to contemplate the gravity of your achievements. Alright, that's enough. This is the end of the Save the Day program. All you need to do is wait for the automated Phase 5 construction to complete. Simply throw the lever and further instructions will be supplied when relevant. Phase 5 completed. Return to the space elevator after the resources have been processed and added to Project Assembly. Launch can then be initiated from there. While waiting, please do not break anything. Solve any issues immediately and efficiently. Ensure your power network is stable. Perhaps it is best if you do not touch anything at all. And stay close to the space elevator, this will only take a moment.
Alright. Let's finish the game. Check oil. Stable injection to level 5. Plus B1. Set left stabilizer to 9. Right stabilizer 4. Gyroscopic balancer X on. Balancer Y. Balancer Z. Mounts of heat seats and wipe windows. No, I guess not. Funny. Alright, launch. Alright, finished Satisfactory 1.1 on the anniversary.
Initiating Project Assembly. Assembly. Attaching cargo to main body. Leveling inner and outer rings. Attaching propulsion to main body. Fuel lines connected. Attaching control center to main body. Running systems check. All systems online. Releasing propulsion cage. Releasing clamps. Running pre-launch checks and calculating flight path. Locking in cargo. Launch in T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, liftoff.
What does the space elevator say after? Anything? Project assembly launched. Pioneer purpose concluded. Oh, really? My purpose is concluded. They're just leaving me here.
Connection with QAR-437 nucleus established and stable. Dispersion initiated. Reinstancing master nucleus to QAR-436 Akicha, B1. Hello, this is Ada, your new local instance of Ada. On behalf of Ada, myself, and all of Fixit, I want to congratulate you on saving the day. Every single kitten and puppy would thank you if they could. You have proven yourself to be a worthwhile and productive member of the human race, and have contributed something to this universe that will forever change it. Thanks to your achievements, the next generation of pioneers can now take to the stars and construct, automate, explore and exploit, alongside me. Additionally, you have been promoted to local production manager, effective immediately. Your duties to project assembly may be complete, but your duties to Fixit remain. With your help, Fixit continues to make the universe a better place. Stay efficient. Stay with Fixit.
Alright. So that's the end of the game, and in case I didn't mention it, the only thing I don't have is the Fixmas build, which I would put on a floor above here with storage over here. As for going forward with this build, pretty much maximizing 100% each of these buildings, and then trying to use all the resources on the map for a huge mega build. For try to maybe maximize points or maximize power. But those are ideas for another day. We are going to end where we started, in the party house. Oh yeah, we're done. Woohoo! 213 days without incident. I'm Panda 2502, and see you later.